I woke up one morning utterly confused, ready to text my girlfriend Maddie good morning, but I couldn't find her name on my phone. I couldn't find half my contacts. I shrugged it off as a glitch with my old phone, not a glitch in the Matrix at first. I don't remember the details, but I think because I thought it was some kind of a malfunctioning device, I just forgot over the course of the day and went about my business. I just remember making a note to myself that said, Maddie's number is gone. Remember to re-enter it into the phone to set the date night for next week. That was some 6 years ago, and I still have that note in there. I don't know who Maddie is, but it was definitely not a vivid dream. I had the note tucked away in my desk until I went off to university. When I came back for Christmas later on that year, the note was gone. However, I still have this feeling that I knew this person, but I don't know who she was or what happened to her. A couple of months ago, my girlfriend and I were on vacation in Michigan, and we stopped at a hotel in Ironwood, Michigan, and when we got our key to our room, we were told that we could drive our car to the end of the parking lot to get closer to the door to our room. We got all of our stuff ready to bring into the room and opened the door to the hotel. There was a staircase to the left and a door with a small window to the right that led to the hallway our room was supposed to be at. When we were about to go through that door, we saw the window of an office with shelves that had folders and a guy sitting at the desk with computers on it. He looked at us kind of confused, as if we were not supposed to be able to see him, so we left without entering the room. Later on that night, we went down the hall to where the door was to see if we went through the wrong door, and we rounded the corner, and we saw the same door that led to the stairs and to the outside door, and there was just vending machines and an empty hallway. No desk, no room, no computers, and it was a hallway, not a room with an office. Freaks me out to think about it. I've had a few other strange things that have happened to me, but this is the most recent, and it's by far the most bizarre. I would like to start the post by saying that I don't smoke, drink, or use any kinds of mind-altering substances. My apartment has good ventilation, and I've always kept the windows open during the day, so the chance of carbon monoxide poisoning is low. The event happened around a year ago, and I was in my 20s and was completely sober. It was a nice summer evening, and I had gone to the supermarket, bought some food, and was starting to prepare dinner. Usually, I would make boiled vegetables as a side dish to my meal. That day was no exception. I bought broccoli, yellow and red bell peppers, and after cutting all of them, I put them in a large pot and turned on the stove. And then I went to my room and started browsing the internet until I heard the water boiling. And that's when I came back into the kitchen. To my surprise, in the pot, there was only broccoli and red bell peppers. All the yellow bell peppers were gone. I checked everywhere, even in the trash can, but no yellow bell peppers could be found. I first thought I'd remembered wrong and I hadn't bought any of them at all, but there was still half a yellow bell pepper left in the fridge, and it was proof to me that I did buy them and cut them and put them in the pot. My windows were open, but I had to put a latch that kept it from opening up too wide, and my apartment was on the 4th floor, so nobody could have climbed up and got in my apartment to steal yellow bell peppers of all things. And I can't see why somebody would just break into my apartment to do something like that. It makes absolutely no sense. I also lived alone back then, so I don't think it could have been any kind of a prank by anybody, as no one had access to that apartment. I never found out what happened to my yellow bell peppers, and I've told this story to some of my acquaintances, none of which can provide me with any kind of a plausible explanation for what happened. So something happened on Easter that gets weirder the more I think about it. My entire family was over when we were just getting the food set up at the table and pouring drinks or whatever, when the distinct feeling came over me that someone was missing. We were all seated there at the same time. Nobody was in the bathroom or anywhere else, and there's been no deaths in my family or anything like that. So it's very strange. There's only 10 of us too, so it was easy to account for everybody who was present. I started to mentally count everyone. When I looked up and saw my mom, she had a strange and confused look on her face, as she was doing the same thing. She then looks up and asks me, "Hey, who's missing?" I freaked out, of course, because I felt the same way. Nobody else at the table did, however, but it was weird how this sort of wave of feeling washed over the both of us at the same time. We were so certain that we even started verbally listing everyone that was present, just to prove that someone was gone, and we were even arguing that there had to be somebody missing, as illogical as it might sound. My mom and I were weirded out by this for the rest of the night, and still are. At the time, it was not a question if somebody was gone, it was a serious conviction that there was a person absent, a distinct person with their own personality and appearance, but we couldn't name them. We couldn't identify them. Weird. A little backstory. I've been going through a very long, drawn-out and painful breakup. It's been an ongoing thing for the last 6 to 7 months, even after I moved. And I moved 1,600 miles away and started to try to build a new life for myself. Long story short on that, my ex didn't want to let me go. And I was still very much in love and wanted to work things out myself. So we continued to talk every day and make visits to each other, almost like a long-distance relationship. And I've just recently ended that and gone no contact, so it's been rough to say the least. I know that this seems irrelevant, but I promise that it is necessary for context. Anyways, I'm going through it mentally. I'm extremely depressed, going on 3 weeks of barely moving at all, other than for basic functions needed to survive. And I'll be honest, my thoughts have been very dark, so I decided to get up and go for a drive. I just needed to get out of the house and see some light. I packed a small bag because occasionally I car camp when I'm feeling lost or depressed or sad, and it helps me return to normalcy with much more gratitude than I had before I left. So as I drive, I go through all the emotions one has during these times, and on the highway I can freely let them out. I scream, cry, yell at God, the universe, anything that will listen. I demand attention and a response from whatever powers that are out there. I know it's stupid and I know it's fruitless behavior, but it makes me feel better, so I do it. Hours later, I'm lying in my back seat for a rest at about 11 p.m. in a parking lot on the edge of a small town, and I'm watching YouTube till I nod off for a few hours. I wake up at 2 a.m. to find that the radio has been kicked on for some reason by itself. I haven't been listening to the radio because if certain songs play, it'll screw me up emotionally. This wouldn't be an issue, and normally I would have just turned it off, but the song that was playing was some oldie song about not being able to go back in time to be together. Something that I had been screaming into the ether for and begging for actually earlier in the day in my conversation with the quote-unquote universe, which made me tear up when I heard it. Also, I can't find the song online anywhere, so I'm not even sure it actually exists. That easily could have been coincidental, but the next song was I Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith, at which point I was really crying and it was really ugly, and I couldn't stop at that point. At this point, it almost feels like the radio is talking to me, and I just hear song after song. After that, I hear Wide Awake by, I think it's Katy Perry, and then I hear the song Lean on Me, followed by Maneater, at which all these emotions are rushing back to me, and I'm just having a hard time keeping it all together, and I'm convinced that the universe has some kind of a hex on me, and I'm constantly being bombarded by these songs that are reminding me of my ex and not letting go. But here's where things go from bizarre to the glitch in the matrix, in my opinion, because however weird and otherworldly these earlier things seem, they can most likely be explained, but this can't. After I turned off my radio, I could still hear it playing, the same station, but it was playing from somewhere else. Commercials and everything. Muffled slightly, but still audible to the point that I could hear the lyrics of the songs when the commercials were done. It sounded like it was coming from my trunk almost. My car was off at this point. I turned it off when I turned off the radio. So I wasn't just burning fuel needlessly, which means no radio signal to my car because there's no power. Obviously, I sat up and looked around and saw no other cars near me at all. This is a large parking lot of a chain supermarket. The store is closed and the parking lot is empty. There are a few semis parked on the opposite side of the lot. talking like multiple football-sized field lots, and it's 2:30 in the morning with no vehicles anywhere. My windows were all shut as it was between 35 and 45 degrees Fahrenheit outside, which is pretty cold. The radio from nowhere continued to play until I fell asleep again. The last song that I remember playing was, as I drifted off into sleep, Tainted Love. For those asking, I didn't want to leave the car because it was cold and I was a bit scared hearing this. So, even though it was something that piqued my curiosity, my emotions overtook me, and me being scared and being creeped out by this playing in the background made me just want to stay in the car, as I felt safer and just wanted to sleep it off. Sometimes the women in my family literally know things that are impossible for us to know. The main three are me, my mom, and my daughter. It's not like a psychic thing. We can't control it. In my experience, it's like taking a test you study really, really hard for, so you're ready and confident in your answer. My mom's thing is safety. She always knows when somebody is in danger, or going to get hurt, or going to need help. She's called me as something was happening before to ask if that exact thing had happened yet, and then it does. My thing is people. I'm never wrong about people. My daughter's thing is pregnancy. She can always tell when somebody's pregnant. But let's go back to my mom for just a second. My parents got married at 19. I was born a year later. When they were 22, my mom was pregnant with my baby brother and my dad wanted to go to a concert. My mom said that she didn't want him to. She said that he was going to get hurt. My dad told her that he'd be fine. She probably was just anxious because of me and being pregnant with my brother. He said he wouldn't be out too late and that he'd be fine. But at that age, my dad had a hot temper and a spotless driving record. She should have been worried about him getting into a fight or something, but no. She knew that something was going to happen and that he was going to get into a wreck or something. But he insisted that he would be fine. She finally agreed, but she made him promise to wear a seatbelt when he was driving. He did, and on his way home from the concert, there was a long, empty, boring stretch of road that he had to drive down. He was alone. He ended up falling asleep going 70 miles per hour and wrecked into a tree. He would have died had he not been wearing a seatbelt. I'll give you an example regarding me. My sister became friends with this girl, and before I even met her, I didn't like her. My sister said that she was fun, happy, and bubbly. She got mad at me because I said, look, she's going to overwhelm you really fast, and when you tell her you need a break, she's going to threaten self-harm. She's a psycho. She told me that it was ridiculous to assume that, and then I told her that I wasn't assuming anything. And I said, I'm telling you, I know what I'm talking about, and this is going to happen. She said that I was just jealous of her new friend. Sure enough, 2 months later, my sister called me, losing it over the phone, saying, how did you know that? How did you know she was going to do that? She told me that she told this girl she needed some space, and the girl said, I'm just going to end it all. Nobody wants to be around me, and everybody hates me. I guess I should apologize for calling this girl a psycho because she clearly has some emotional problems and she should seek professional help. However, she didn't end up ending anything, if you know what I mean, and my sister and her no longer hang out. As far as my daughter, she did something that was probably the most bizarre that I've ever heard any person of any age doing. I had a friend come over and she announced her pregnancy. My daughter was 3 years old at the time and announced something that shocked everybody. But before that, we congratulated her and hung out and talked for a while. When they left, my daughter said, Mama, did Miss Taylor say she was pregnant? Thinking that she was wondering what pregnant meant, I said, because she's going to have a baby. She has one in her belly. Then my daughter, who was 3 years old, said, No, Mama, she doesn't. The baby died. My friend called me a few days later to tell me that she had a miscarriage. On a separate occasion, another friend came over to hang out. My daughter was about a year older. She was 4 years old at that time. And my daughter asked, what are you going to name the baby? She had been trying to have a baby for about 3 years at this point with no luck. She said, I'm not having a baby. And my daughter said, yes, you are. There's a baby in that belly. 2 weeks later, this other friend of mine found out that she was pregnant.